We have to get more publicity out there. Consumers have to really understand what's going on in the farming sector, and really as well, we need to give farmers a real voice to everybody across the UK. Andrew Martin, I'm Head of Food and Drink and also Agri-tech within AMRC Cymru.
Yeah, so the role of Agri-tech within food production had quite a significant one. So it's already adopted currently. There's an awful lot of high tech that's currently being used.
So my name is Rhian Griffith. I'm a Senior Manufacturing Research Engineer here at AMRC Cymru. Yeah, AgSeed have designed and manufactured the AgBot. They have 3 different versions of it. We have their sort of largest configuration, which is a tracked vehicle. It is fully autonomous, so it doesn't have a seat. It's completely unmanned, and it can carry out operations through the full sort of life cycle of farming. It's intended to replace the traditional tractor in the sense that you can install implements to it. I think it has a 3-metre width restriction, or maximum width, and its top speed is about 15 kilometres per hour, and it has about 150 horsepower. In comparison to sort of larger arable type tractors, it doesn't have the same capacity or the same max speed, but what it can do, because it's fully autonomous, is it can operate for up to 24 hours. So it's almost like 3 times as much as a sort of a 9 till 5 day. I know farming necessarily isn't 9 till 5, but that's kind of how it can replace the tractor.
But using that data then to action things like the AgBot that we've been doing trials with, which is a fully autonomous system, is going to be quite critical. Bringing robotics in, I think, is going to help a lot. We've got a lot of issues with labour shortages, and there's been some alleviation announced recently with the UK government, which is a good start in terms of labour. But ultimately, I think as time goes on, it will be a definite requirement for robotics to support labour.
Predominantly we've been doing grassland trials at Glyndŵr College, and the way the trials have been set up is we've been using the fully autonomous AgBot. We've also been using a semi-autonomous fence tractor, and then the same fence tractor in complete manual mode. And that's basically so that we can make a comparison to what is quite common in arable farming, and then also what could happen with just a man doing all the work. And the trials have been relatively successful at this point. They're very qualitative because our goal is to kind of spread awareness of what future technology there is. And what we've seen so far is that the comparison between the 3 is quite similar. Where the biggest difference is that the manned fence, when it's completely controlled by the driver, that is a lot quicker. They'll happily drive a lot faster. But where we're also seeing then benefit with the AgBot is the precision. So the overlap between rows can be a lot smaller with the AgBot, because you can do all the sort of route planning in an app beforehand, and you can essentially create a digital shadow of your farm and then do all the planning for sort of best fuel efficiency, best time, stuff like that.
The stuff that you cover informs consumers about farming. A lot of people know it exists but don't really know anything about it, and myself included actually, until we embarked on some of the work that we're doing. And understanding a lot of what goes on and some of the detail and the challenges that farming faces, I think, is critical for consumers to understand, because ultimately they have buying power in supermarkets, for example, which helps influence where things may go. Farmers are getting more and more challenges put on them that they have to deal with in combination with producing food for the nation.
Because farming essentially is the most important industry in sort of like keeping people alive, I think it's baffling that in school we're not really taught about it, and as a young person that doesn't come from a farming background, you don't know very much about it, and you don't really know how important it is. And essentially when you go to the supermarket and you buy the food that you need for the week, actually that comes from agriculture. So I think the fact that you're on this platform that is sort of targeting my generation and younger and older is really beneficial, because it spreads, it generates awareness to people who soon will be hopefully changing the future.
It was a really interesting discussion to look how we moved into agriculture, and we spent a long time researching agriculture, discussing it really with farmers, and looking then at how we could add value to agriculture and how we could take technology to the next generation of farmers.
I don't really see it as like replacing old with new. I think that what's actually happening is we're coming like full circle. Essentially, if you think way back when, our very sort of early days pulling power were horses, and horses were fueled from the food grown on farm. So it was all like controlled and it was all very sustainable. What we're trying to do now is move away from the likes of diesel combustion engines and big heavy agriculture to these sort of smaller, more lightweight, more precision and more greener fuels. And when we're talking about that, for example, with a hydrogen IC engine, if that's ever feasible, we could use the farm and the sort of waste matter to create energy and then create the hydrogen and then fuel our essentially equivalent to what was horses. So to me it's kind of like we're going back to the basics, but we're just using modern technology.
Well, a lot of it comes down to data. So data on everything that we can get hold of is so valuable, and ultimately supports the informing of decisions. So centering up farms, having vision systems in various places to inform critical decisions, I think is very valuable.
AMRC Cymru are leaders in innovation throughout the UK, and in particular we're part of the high value manufacturing catapult. Within that, as AMRC Cymru, we take a lead in food and drink and agriculture. We see agriculture really as a key element of our work going forward. It is part of our work towards what we call a living factory, and really taking technology from current factories into the agricultural space.